The following podcast contains spoilers for The Exception. You have been warned!
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of KFR News Radio. This is your host, Glenjamin Button, along with your host, Miguel Migos.
Hello! Hello, wie geht es Ihnen?
Oh, hey, buddy, how you doing, my silly little Willie?
I'm good, how are you?
Oh, living the freaking dream, my man.
I know, that's a fucking lie from
That is a supreme lie right now, but we'll get into that a little bit.
We will.
I watched movies. Can you believe it?
I saw a couple, one of which I'm really excited to hear what you think, and also a little bit afraid. But So, you start. What have you watched this week?
Yeah, let me hit you up with the goodies. So I'm kind of going off this kind of like weird biopic thing that I've been doing. I started kind of with The Founder, and then we watched Mank, and now I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna watch Trumbo, because why not?
Yeah, with Bryan Cranston about I forget his first name. Dalton Trumbo, who wrote Spartacus, among other great films, and was blacklisted for being a communist. But he wasn't like a hiding communist. He was just like, yeah, I'm a communist. What of it?
Yeah. So that was pretty good. I actually did want to see that when it came out, but never actually got around to it. So 5 years later down the road, here we are.
I saw that one in one of my big movie days where it's all 4 movies in a day.
And then the other one was actually something I had definitely lied about in the last podcast, not knowingly that I lied until I started editing it, that Vast of Night, you were like, oh yeah, this is the only one on the list that I have seen, or like 2 of these I've seen. I'm like, hey, me too. I'm like, wait, what?
Last week with Netflix Roulette, it was The Exception, which we watched, The Vast of Night, and then Killing Them Softly. And I said I had seen both except for The Exception. And you're like, yeah, me too. And I was really confused about that.
And that was a lie, and I don't know why I said that. It just happened.
It did, yeah.
So I watched that. That was actually amazing. I do want to rewatch it. I do want to rewatch it again.
Right? It's so fucking good.
I do this thing where I like, for some reason, because streaming has fucked me up where I have to do multiple things at once. So like I was watching the movie, I was watching my friend play a game, and then I was like, I gotta use my fingers. And then I started playing Animal Crossing again for the first time since it came out. And I'm nowhere further, but I want to rewatch it. It was a great movie. I love I love that it took place when it did. I love the whole style of it.
I love how simple it is, where it's like
so simple.
Like, this is gonna make a lot of people not want to watch it, but it's just talking and like talking over the phone. But it's so compelling what is being said, and it's like you're unveiling a mystery as it's happening. And I do want to do that on the podcast at some point, even though we have both already seen it. I think it'd be a great episode to talk about. Yeah,
for sure. I would love to rewatch that again. And then actually, I had this backwards. I watched this movie before I watched this movie. I watched Eyes Wide Shut, which is a Stanley Kubrick film, which I've been meaning to get around to forever.
I haven't even seen it, so.
Which is, I actually didn't know much about this movie. It's not what I thought it was. I thought there was like sex everywhere, but there wasn't exactly sex everywhere.
Really? Okay, because that's honestly that's been one of the reasons I've like stayed away from it. Not because like I am not a prude. I want to say that I'm not a prude, but I think movies that are just about sex are kind of boring. Yeah. So like that's the main reason I've stayed away from it. But if it's more complex than just that, then I'll definitely check it out.
The movie is straight up, pretty much, literally about sex.
Okay.
But they don't even the scene where it is like it's happening. It's not even the forefront of it. It's mainly Tom Cruise's character experiencing what's going on more than what's actually happening. Like I think it was a fantastic film. I do want to rewatch it again, but it was like 2.5+ hours.
Oh yeah, that's another reason. It's extremely long. Yeah. For me, like it just from what I've heard about it, which is not much. It just seemed like a down point for Stanley Kubrick, which It might not. It might not be, but
Yeah.
I'll watch it eventually. But that's just why I haven't seen it yet.
I would say extremely underrated. Not a lot of people talk about this movie just because of all of his other movies. This movie was really good and definitely made me think like afterwards and everything like that. So
cool.
So I would not mention, but I would recommend getting to that eventually. And then the last movie I watched was the movie we're going to further review, and then I'll let you hit me with my earlobes. Please hit me with my own earlobes.
So I saw 15 movies, a little bit down from last week, but 15 movies this week. One of which was The Exception, of course, and then one of which will be our movie for this coming next week. I know I've already seen it, but I kind of want to hear your thoughts, and it did come out last year, so it's within the...
It's in the safe zone.
Yeah, it's in the safe zone. So the first movie I watched was Psych the Movie. For those of you who don't know me, and Glenn, you might not even know this, but the TV show Psych from USA from like the mid-2000s is my favorite goddamn show in the world.
I remember when you used to specifically only use Psych GIFs for a while.
Oh yeah, Psych is just a great show, and I next year I definitely want to rewatch the series because I've been focused more on movies lately, so I've been watching a lot of movies, and I want to rewatch Psych. But yeah, if you're a fan of Psych, you're going to love Psych the Movie. There's a second movie that came out this year, but it is not yet available on any of the streaming services that I subscribe to, so I can't watch that yet.
Yeah.
But that was really good. Then I watched Vivarium with Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg. I love Imogen Poots too. And it is... You know, me and Caitlin are expecting a child. It is not a movie you should watch when you're expecting a child because it seriously gave me anxiety.
Ooh.
I'm not going to say anything other than there's a kid in it that is not theirs, but they're forced to raise this kid. He's extremely annoying, which is giving me anxiety. And then he turns kind of, but not really, into a fucking frog, which, even though that is impossible, gave me even more anxiety.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm definitely... But the anxiety subsided after the movie, but it was definitely just like, what am I getting myself into?
My child's going to turn into a frog. It's the prince.
Yeah, it's a solid movie. It's definitely like a mind fuck movie, which it's not really amazing, but it's good. It's very stylized. I enjoyed it. Imogen Poots is great. Jesse Eisenberg is great. If you want to check it out, check it out. Then I watched Run with Sarah Paulson. It is kind of like the Munchausen syndrome. That's what I was thinking. Munchausen syndrome. She has a daughter who...
Oh, is this one of her new ones?
Yeah, it just came out last month, I think. She has a daughter that is in a wheelchair, played by an actual actress, like an actress who actually uses a wheelchair. So it's got a lot of inclusivity in that sense. And she, the daughter starts suspecting of her committing Munchausen syndrome, where parents poison their kids to keep them sick, so they have to follow them. And it's really interesting. It kind of it walks the line of, is this happening? Is this not happening? It keeps the mystery really solid. And the actress who plays her daughter, I believe it's her first role. She's phenomenal in it. Her and Sarah Paulson are great together, and it is surprisingly really impressive film that is on Hulu. You can check out. Then I watched Tyrannosaur, which is my 3,000th movie I have ever seen ever, at least according to Letterboxd. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's a milestone for the ages.
Yes. I don't know if that's like, some people said that doesn't sound impressive. I'm like, how many movies have you watched?
Just
it's like, rate all the movies you watched on Letterboxd and then get back to me if it's more than 3,000. This is directed by Patty Considine, who is a lot of people would know him as one of the Andys from Hot Fuzz. He's a great actor. He's also in Macbeth, the one we saw with Michael Fassbender. Yeah, and he's a really talented actor. He directed and wrote this, and it's incredible. It's very sad and hard to watch, but it is extremely good. It has a lot of people who are in Hot Fuzz too, which kind of makes it weird. Because it's a very serious movie, but it's all these people that made me laugh.
People that were really funny in a different movie.
Like Olivia Colman, she's in Hot Fuzz. Eddie Marzan, who is also in Hot Fuzz, and also both Patty and Eddie are in The World's End, the other Edgar Wright Simon Pegg movie. But yeah, really incredible film. I suggest people check that out. Then I watched, because, trying to get to 366, thought, fuck it, I'll watch The Happy Time Murders with Melissa McCarthy. It's essentially, one thing that blew my mind is that it was directed by Jim Henson's son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's essentially Muppets on crack, literally and figuratively. And it's a fine movie. It's dumb. It serves its purpose. I'll never watch it again. I didn't hate watching it, but it's not good.
Yeah.
Then my other personality watched Light of My Life, which is written, directed by Casey Affleck. It's kind of like a post-apocalyptic thing. That is the movie we're going to be watching next week. I'll get into more of that later. And
I haven't seen a Casey film this year, so it's definitely happy to do that.
And he wrote and directed it, so it's really it's really a Casey Affleck movie.
Yeah.
Then I watched a classic Japanese horror movie and comedy called House, which I fucking hated. This is a really renowned movie, and I understand why, but it is essentially everything I hate about anime, but in a live-action movie.
So it seems like I feel like I have to watch it just to make sure that I hate it.
Yeah, you might like it, but you might hate it as well.
What was it called?
It's called House.
Okay.
From 1977, and the story is really good. The acting's really good. The fucking editing and cinematography and style I hated.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I understand why people like it. It's just not my thing. Kind of like anime. I understand why people like it. It's just not my thing.
Yeah. I'm actually watching another old one, not as old as that one right now, called Berserk.
But I hated this more than I hate anime, so that's saying something.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, it has a lot of really impressive things that I was impressed with.
Most do, but it does get overshadowed by other stuff.
It was so annoying, and if you ever watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about, or at least you'll know why I hated it.
Yeah, I know why you hated it. At least
you might like it. I watched a movie from this year that recently came out. And I'll tell you what, if this isn't nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Best Actress in a Supporting Role, Cinematography, Directing, and Writing in the Oscars, I will be very fucking upset. Because this is the best movie I've seen this year. It knocked The Vast of Night out of its #1 spot for my top 10 of the year. It is called Sound of Metal. With
oh yeah, I definitely remember seeing this one up on
it has Riz Ahmed as the main protagonist, Olivia Cook, who from Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, and then Paul Raci or Rossi or Racy, I'm not sure how his last name is pronounced, but he is phenomenal. All three of them are phenomenal, which is why I really hope, but I'm not holding my breath, that they all get nominated for Oscars. But if this isn't nominated in most, if not all of those categories I just mentioned, I will lose my shit. And if the
bare minimum at least one.
Yeah, I liked Mank, but if Mank beats this in any of those categories because it's about Hollywood, I will personally fly out to Los Angeles and burn Hollywood to the ground.
Again.
Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, Sound of Metal is a really great film. I don't want to give too much away. It is heartbreaking. It is real. It is beautiful. It makes people who like metal seem human, which is, something that I wish wasn't unheard of in films. But oftentimes,
it's definitely
people who like metal are villains and or stupid or both. But this is really a really beautiful film, and I really at least want you to watch it, Glenn.
Well, I'll write it down along with House, and
yes,
I'll definitely probably hate one and love the other.
Yeah. Then I watched Exception, we'll get to in a second. Then I watched The Battered Bastards of Baseball, which is about Kurt Russell's dad's minor league team that he owned, minor league baseball team that Kurt Russell also played on. And kind of like how they were essentially forced out of baseball because the higher-ups in baseball hate people having fun, which is true. I love baseball, but the people who control how baseball is viewed are very broomstick up their ass kind of people.
Sounds about right.
So love the sport, hate the people who run it, but this was a great documentary, and it was cool to see. I would love to see a film adaptation of this. I think it could be really good, kind of up there with like Slapshot or
It'd be pretty cool if Kurt Russell directed it too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think
I don't know how he is with directing or anything, but
me neither. But I mean, he's close to it. So at the very least, I would like to see him work on the script.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really cool documentary. I suggest people check out. Then I watched a Jonas Åkerlund movie, who we'll remember as being the director of Polar. I didn't pick this knowing it was him.
What was the first name?
Jonas?
Giannis?
Oh, you son of a bitch. So Jonas Åkerlund movie starring Matt Lucas, who was also in Polar, and Johnny Knoxville, who was also in Polar, and James Caan for some reason, and Billy Crystal for some reason.
Is like that they just were like, "Yo, Johnny, help me out, brother."
Yeah, they're probably just friends.
Yeah.
But it's called Small Apartments. I really enjoyed it. It's a weird, quirky, dark comedy with Matt Lucas and Johnny Knoxville, James Caan, and Billy Crystal. It's a weird cast, but it works. It's not a great movie, but it's like many movies, it serves its purpose. I didn't hate the hour and a half of the running time.
Yeah.
Also, Dolph Lundgren is in it for some reason.
Why not?
There's just a whole bunch of people in it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's called Small Apartments. Then I watched The Tiger Hunter with Danny Pudi from Community. People would know him as Abed from Community. It's essentially just like a coming to America, American Dream type movie with him living in an apartment with 13 other South Asian people. And it's got a lot of people you'll recognize. None of their names I remember, unfortunately, but a lot of like Indian comedian and comedic actors in it. And it's a good movie. Again, serves its purpose. Then I watched Tesla with Ethan Hawke, where he plays Nikola Tesla. This movie was so close to being pretty good.
Yeah.
Except for because it was making the point that Nikola Tesla was so ahead of his time.
Yeah.
It broke the mold, where like broke the time period where there was one part where Nikola Tesla was like singing karaoke and everything. It was really weird. And like there's,
without taking a jab at Ethan Hawke, because I do love that man, I feel like most of his movies are that close to that barrier.
Yeah, I mean I love the things he picks. I would rather someone pick a bad, interesting movie like Tesla than just the normal shit that is made every day. So I'm not mad at the movie Tesla. I just think that there are other movies who combine period pieces with modernization a lot better.
Yeah,
like your Moulin Rouges, your Great Gatsby, which I didn't like, but it still combined the two time periods better than this. I didn't hate it, but it's just not good either. And Jim Gaffigan's in it for some reason again. So yeah, it's Tesla. It's on Hulu if you want to check it out. You might like it. I didn't care for it, but I'd rather someone try something different and fail than just do a cookie cutter. Then I watched Flower with Zoe Deutsch and Catherine Hahn and Tim Heidecker. It's about this girl who tricks older men. Oh, she doesn't trick older men. She will give blowjobs to older men for money and then frame them. But that's not the whole plot, but that's how her character is introduced. And then she meets her stepbrother who was sexually assaulted as a kid. And it's just kind of her trying to get back at the guy that did that to her stepbrother. It's interesting comedy. I think
sounds like quite a ride.
Yeah. It's good enough. It's not amazing, but I got nothing bad to say about it, but nothing great to say about it. Then I watched Hillbilly Elegy, which is Ron Howard's newest film. It's on Netflix. A lot of critics have been shitting on this, and I get why, but also think they've been going a little too hard. It is the worst of Oscar bait. Yeah. But it is not as bad as they have been making to say. They've been exaggerating it.
So it takes place in Hollywood and it stars John Wayne and...
No, it's actually based on a true story written by a guy who is a lawyer, I believe, and his time growing up in Middletown, Ohio, with his drug-addicted mother, who abused him, and his grandmother who abused his mother, and just a whole bunch of abuse. And it's kind of like how a lot of Rust Belt states feel that America has left them behind, which is, I empathize with that, because that there are a lot of cities out there that like have been abandoned by corporations and shit, which is kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
But like I said, this is not as bad as the critics are saying, but it's also not good. It's a fine middle. It's like a movie of the week where it's like it's fine. It's a little too preachy, really.
But it's not mind blowing.
Yeah, exactly. I think with the talent that is in there with Glenn Close and Amy Adams, it should have been better. And Ron Howard directing, of course, but it lacks heart. But that's all I watched this week, just a few films.
Just all.
So let's get into some news, Glenn. You have news.
Yeah, I've got a couple. It was a pretty actually busy week considering. First off, this is more news for me because I love this more than anything in the world. Oscar Isaac to star as Solid Snake in the Metal Gear movie, which Metal Gear is one of my favorite game franchises of all time. Personally, I had like the last 10 years, I had like a fan pick for who I wanted as Solid and who I wanted as Liquid. For Solid, it was Carl Urban, and Liquid, it was like Dean from Supernatural. But we finally got the real thing, and it's Oscar Isaac, which I'm really content with because he's the man. And they're still pretty in the early workings of it. They haven't filmed obviously yet. They just picked their main star finally. I don't think they have anybody else really, but that's huge. I don't expect this movie to be good in the slightest. I'm just excited to see it finally at least trying to be made into something.
Yeah.
But knowing that Oscar Isaac's going to be the dude, the main man, Solid Snake, and especially if I don't know if you're the Triple Frontier movie that he did with Ben Affleck and all those guys, Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
They were all in an interview together, and like they were like, "Hey, what would you like if you were to do like a dream like casting for yourself? Like, what movie would you want to like play?" And he was just like, "Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid, boom."
Nice.
That was like what 2 years ago. So it's finally cool to see that, and that he wants to be a part of that. So that's amazing. Spider-Man 3 actually kind of just broke news an hour or two ago before recording this that they pretty much have all the stars from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Everybody really except for Tobey Maguire. He's the last one holding out. He's still doing negotiations on.
Yeah, they had Alfred Molina too, right?
So they're bringing back Kirsten Dunst. Probably Tobey Maguire. They got Andrew Garfield. They
better fucking bring back Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, what's actually funny is somebody posted a tweet and I was laughing my ass off. They said Paul Giamatti is reprising his role for Spider-Man 3 for the new MCU Spider-Man, but instead of Rhino, he's going to be the guy from Sideways. Which I thought was hilarious.
That is hilarious. I do want Paul Giamatti to return.
Yeah, especially since it like Oscar Isaac, he really wanted to play Rhino, and he got shanked from doing that for Amazing Spider-Man 3 never coming out. So that's hopefully he gets compensated for that again and gets back in there. No matter what iteration it looks like, hopefully he gets some sort of something out of it. But yeah, that's the Spider-Man news, and then the last one. I don't know if we actually talked about this last week, but it kind of broke last week that Warner Brothers is pretty much put out their whole list of movies that are going to be coming out. Basically, it's more than likely just going to go straight to HBO Max.
Not even the half and half, like they said.
Yeah, I don't.
Or like it would play in movies as well as on HBO Max.
Yeah, I think what you just said is more correct than what I said. But
okay.
I know what you're thinking. How did we get here? Well, this next topic's going to take a little bit of time to talk about because me and Mike really like to rant. If you don't want to listen to that, just go ahead into the 35-minute mark, and you can just keep on listening to the podcast. Bye bye. So with that, I've been like, at first I was like, oh, that's actually kind of dope. I kind of love that. Like, in case like this pandemic thing, is still riding for another couple more months, it makes sense to do that. but also at the same time, it's going to kill the movie theater franchise. Not like straight up put it through a heart, but it's like the first step for other movie studios to do the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And this is mainly more of a rant than it is a news, considering this came out last week. But I've just been looking at the comment sections on Twitters, on like the Instagram, all that, and just people are so fucking hyped for this, and just tearing movie theaters apart for this, and just tearing like actors apart. Because I read that Gal Gadot, she's supposed to make a certain amount of money in box office, like she'll make a certain amount of money in box office revenue, or like once it hits like a tile or like a little tile mark. But because it's going to go straight to streaming, she might not make all that money that she's supposed to be making. And there was like comments like, oh yeah, fuck the rich people anyway. Like, and it blows my mind that people are thinking like that, because it's not just impacting.
Who do they think are making these decisions?
Yeah, it's
the rich people who are going to make money regardless. Just instead of the people that they're banking off their faces, it's going to the people behind the scenes, who, mind you, are the ones that are more likely to like assault people.
Yeah, so you've got people like that who are like, yeah, fuck the rich people, and then you've got the people who are like, movie tickets were too much money anyway, which is understandable. They are, but at a certain point, like, these movies are cranking out millions of dollars.
Yeah, do they think that they're gonna make anything more than a $40 million movie? Like, if it does become a thing, you're not gonna get your Avenger type movies anymore if it's strictly streaming.
And then you had the people who were just like, good, we nobody likes the movie theater experience anymore anyway, or like anyway.
That's fucking false.
Yeah,
like,
and that's a bold face lie.
I would love if the people who don't like the movie theater going experience stay the fuck away from movie theaters, because they're more likely the ones to talk. So good riddance to them. I do think theaters should have downsized a long time ago. Yeah. And this is going to force their hand to do so. I don't think movie theaters will go anywhere. They will downsize, and I think that's for the best. But also, fuck any... Like, honestly, if you're cheering for this, you're not a movie fan, so fuck off.
And, like, reading all that just kind of really hit home to me how much this actually fucking sucks. Because... I've been out of a job now for we came back at the end of summer, but like I've been out of a job now for like 9 months, and all these people are just like, oh yeah, screw it, just we don't need movie theaters anyway. I'm like, this is how I'm living, brother. What do you mean?
It's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of jobs.
Yeah,
and like. So the only people who are not going to be affected by this are the rich people. So what the fuck are you saying? Yeah. Like the people who think that, like, oh, the rich people don't deserve it anyway. They're not. The rich people are not going to be hurt by this. It's the people. Yes, actors might be hurt by this until they restructure their contracts. But this is going to hurt the small crews who, you know, they won't take money away from the talent or the producers. They're going to take money away from crews. Yeah. They're going to take money away from editors. They're going to take money away from special effects teams.
Making the best amount of money, period, already.
Yeah. I have a friend who works for DreamWorks. He's I think he's a lower, like, exec producer. He's on the producing teams for a DreamWorks TV show, and he makes less than my wife, who's a chemist, does. Yeah. So, like, they don't. Not everyone makes shit tons of money in the movie theater, in the movie business. Like, it's ridiculous. And most actors. Sorry, I'm gonna kind of rant a little bit.
No, you good. This is the whole point of this article.
I'm not talking about your Robert Downey Jr.'s or your Chris Evans who sign these massive superhero deals that become extremely lucrative for them. Most actors get paid around scale, which is I think it's like the scale is like less than $2,000 a week, which sounds like a lot until you realize they probably work only 4 or 5 months out of the year. So they don't get $2,000 every single week of the year. They get $2,000 while they're on that project, and then 10% of that goes to their manager, 10% of that goes to their their agent, they have to pay up all this money. A lot of them have to pay for their own makeup artists when they go to these award shows. If they get awards, a lot of the times they have to pay to get the award.
Yeah.
Like they'll still have their name on like the history of the award, but they can't get a physical award unless they pay for it a lot of the times. So there's a lot of costs that go with acting. There's a lot of costs that go with a lot of filmmaking thing, and the only people that aren't going to be hurt by this are the people who are behind the scenes that you don't see that are super rich and are going to stay super rich. It's complete bullshit, and anyone who's saying good riddance to rich people don't know how the film industry works, and they can go fuck off for all I'm concerned.
Yeah, so and then we've got that, and to go with this, there obviously besides me and you right now, there's a lot of people pissed about this. AMC, for instance, they're taking some drastic measures against Warner Brothers right now. They're
yeah.
Because from what I understand, I think they own a percentage of Warner Brothers, so they're like, what are you doing there, bud?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
We should do this, you know?
That's the thing. There's going to be a lot of court cases against this, and it might not... I don't think it will overturn the decision. It might. There's a possibility that it might overturn the decision to go to HBO Max. It won't be in time for Wonder Woman to not be on HBO Max, but you know, they have a number of producers and filmmakers which they have contracts with, which include theatrical releases, like strictly theatrical releases, and then a time. And just because there's a pandemic does not just write that off and overturn that. So there's going to be a lot of litigation going on about this,
especially the guys who made Dune, because from what I understand, they were it was either Godzilla versus Kong or Dune. One of the two was going to have a deal with Netflix, and without word from Warner Brothers was like, not going right to HBO Max. So like they cut the deal or something like that. So like everybody was really completely in the dark about all these movies being sent, and now it's just a thing that's happening, and people are getting sued left and right now. So
and also, who the fuck has HBO Max? HBO Max sucks.
Well, they're really fucking pushing for that platform, which makes sense because
Christopher Nolan,
HBO Go, and everything like that.
Yeah, which is the same thing, really.
No,
they just changed
the same thing.
Yeah, and Christopher Nolan is not happy about it. Obviously, the champion of theaters. Granted, it is partially his fault for pushing to release Tenet in September, but studios could have said no to him. But he said that HBO Max is the worst streaming service. Yeah. Which, I mean, I had HBO Max for like 2 weeks, and I was like, this is kind of garbage. So yeah, I got rid of it.
Yeah, I didn't mind HBO Go when it was a thing, but like now it's just like. Now they got rid of it, so I don't even have that.
It's like $20 a month, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, it's a whole thing. I don't think people who are saying movie theaters are going away, I think they're 100% wrong. There's a huge fan base for movie theaters still that still respect the experience of going to movie theaters and know how to shut the fuck up in a movie theater.
Yeah, and that's what I said in the post that I made today. I was like, most people, they either like I've worked in the movie theater for 7 years. It's like I know what the numbers are looking like. There's people who go on dates like crazy. There's like the first dates, all that shit. You got guys and girls nights when you want to hang out with the boys or the girls. You
have the regulars.
You have the regulars who are coming in. You have just a random person who just has 2 hours to spare. And then holidays. Holidays are a huge one. You're getting away from your fucking family. The first thing that you're doing is going to the movies.
Exactly.
So the logic of some people just blows my mind. Even if like the price is overwhelming, you're still seeing movies. Like that. Yeah. If the option's there, you're doing it.
And if you think the price is overwhelming, every single major theater chain now has a subscription service. So fucking sign up for that. Yeah. I saw 20 movies in 1 month with my Regal subscription. Yeah. That's 20 movies. That is like over $200 that I got for $20. Like, come on.
It's the whole thing blows my mind. This is only the first. Like I definitely saw like this, like the subscription services being a thing in the future. Yeah. I didn't think it was going to take a step this soon, and I didn't expect myself to get so pissed about it so fast either. Yeah. But just people irk me, man, in the way they use their brain for this stuff. Yeah.
Not to mention you're going to lose so much sound design by watching it at home. Like I won't because I have a great setup here. But
on top of that, like who actually wants to sit in their house literally all the time and watch movies? Exactly. Like another good thing is like you want to get out of the house and go watch a movie. Like
exactly.
Like what would happen if for instance Endgame, like that was freaking huge, or Infinity War, whichever one you want to pick. There was crowds upon crowds upon crowds for that. You're not gonna experience that whole like thing from home, like the crowds like that. I had literally people cheering in my ears when Captain America caught a hammer.
Which I hated,
Christ.
but I'm also not the fan base for the Marvel movies, so I get that.
I shit my pants, but I was still like, ah. But it's just mind blowing the thought process behind all these people.
And I just want to be able to take my son when he's old enough to go to see a movie. I want him to grow up in a world where we can go see movies, and I know I will be able to. Hopefully, he won't have to tell people to shut the fuck up like I've had to.
One day he just might have to.
If I ever get murdered in a movie theater, you know it's because I told him to shut up. Let's just say.
Hey, can you shut up?
Yeah. Well, now that we're at 35 minutes, we should probably
just. Did you
get
have
into
any
the
news
exception.
or no?
No, I don't have any news.
Okay,
I apologize to
perfect.
everyone who's still with us here.
I don't.
Yeah, because we are both passionate about movie theaters. We both worked in movie theaters. So without any further ado, let's get into the exception.
The Kaiser remains of great symbolic importance to the German people.
You'll address him as sir, and you will speak only when spoken to, and all discussion of politics is forbidden.
You are to take immediate command of his military guard.
British Secret Service have an agent in the area. Could be a kidnap attempt, most likely an assassination. If anything happens to him, Captain, you'll be shot.
Captain, there's a British spy after me.
You'll be quite safe, Your Highness.
My name is Stefan. I was wondering what yours was.
Mika, deal. Take your clothes off.
The female staff are not to be interfered with.
The exception. A German soldier tries to determine if the Dutch resistance has planted a spy to infiltrate the home of Kaiser Wilhelm in Holland during the onset of World War II, but falls for a young Jewish Dutch woman during his investigation.
Ooh, nice. It is written by Simon Burke based on the novel The Kaiser's Last Kiss by Alan Judd. It is directed by David Laveau, starring Jai Courtney, Lily James, Christopher Plummer, and Janet McTeer. It's also got Eddie Marzan in there as well. And a little unexpectedness that I got from it is that this is an A24 distribution.
Yeah, literally nowhere in here, at least on the IMDb.
Yeah, no, only on the poster, which I didn't look at. But that was a nice surprise. When I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm a little bit more excited for this film now.
Yeah, he sent me a text. He's like, hey, there's a little sneak from A24. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Until I watched it this morning and bada bing, bada boom. One of the title sequences was straight A24. I was like, jaw drop.
Yeah. So, this is a movie in which Christopher Plummer plays... he did not play a Nazi, so I was incorrect last week. He plays the Kaiser Wilhelm II of Holland, or of Germany, Prussia, technically, after he's been exiled. And, I was a little worried about Jai Courtney going into this, but I thought he did a really solid job.
Yeah.
He really kind of commanded the screen and was believable.
I've always liked Jai Courtney. He was always ever since I watched Spartacus, he's always been like one of my favorites, but he's never had that role that he was like given to like actually get there. Besides, for me, Spartacus, he was great in that. But he's Captain Boomerang. That's really his own big thing, I guess. That's not even that big of a thing. And I wish he had more stuff, because he was great in this. Like, this is definitely one of his better roles that he's ever done so far.
Definitely. And one thing I was definitely not expecting from this was the whole discussion of like the morality of serving your country blindly and everything. Whereas he was a devout Nazi, but he also thought that the Nazis who were killing innocent Jewish people were the exception and not the rule, which was a continuing theme throughout. And it was a you know, I just didn't expect it to go that way. I thought he was just going to be like a straight up Nazi who then turned, but in this, you know, obviously he is a Nazi, so he has some responsibility to hold with this, but for lack of a better phrase, was one of the good ones who was just following orders.
Yeah.
And I thought Lily James was great in this. I think she gets better with like every film she's in. She's always extremely charming.
The big one with this one is she's not just like that girl who's like the main character's just like girl, you know?
Oh yeah, she's a fucking spy.
Yeah, she's a spy. Like she had her role in this instead of just being like an arm piece, you know?
Yeah,
which I thought was awesome because
absolutely.
Only
and
all the
even
movies that I've seen has just been that arm piece type role for her.
And even with this, like you know, we talk about gratuitous nudity a lot. I did not feel the nudity by her or Jai Courtney was gratuitous. It felt like in a way, like especially with how fast she was to agree to, you know, when he says take off your clothes, and she kind of just looks at him, kind of decides, and just takes off her clothes. I was like,
I was in that scene. I was kind of scared for like how the tone of the movie was going to be, but luckily, it turned 90 degrees after a certain amount of time.
It was a fucking power move, really, when she did it, and you know, and then she, you know, that scene breaks up because he's got this abdomen injury that causes him a lot of pain, and then she turns the tables on him and just like, take off your clothes, you stupid bitch. At least I wish she said you stupid bitch.
That's how I said it in my mind when I role played it later.
But yeah, I really thought, because you know, everyone, before I say this, every single person who was part of the Nazi Party in one way or another has some responsibility for what happened in World War II. There's no doubt about that. But I think just because I know people who were part of the Hitler Youth growing up in Germany, so they technically were part of the Nazi Party back then. And they, when they found out about, you know, the Holocaust and everything, they were just appalled. They had no idea. And I loved that this had German people in it who were absolutely appalled by what the higher ups were doing. Yeah. You know, there's this mystery and this fantasy of Kaiser Wilhelm and his wife, Princess Hermine, going back to Berlin and sitting on their throne again. There's this great, you know, story that that Hitler's going to let them do that. And then they have a dinner with Himmler. I believe it's Himmler, who's played by Eddie Marzan. Where is he? Where is that cute little?
Seems to be a little lower.
Yeah, Heinrich Himmler. I always get Goering, Goebbels, and Himmler confused all the time. But anyway, when they had dinner with him and he was just talking about like killing children like it was nothing, and you saw the disgust on their face, I was like, that is a bold thing to do in a film. Someone who is, you know, for the Third Reich, learning in real time what the Third Reich actually is like, and just from a firsthand.
They show every single one of the characters' faces of just while he's telling the story and eating at the same time.
Oh,
just not even missing a beat, just eating and telling the story as if it's a normal thing, and everybody around him is just like, the fuck?
Just like, yeah, exactly. So I thought it was really powerful in that sense, and you know, it was for being a smaller war movie where like they barely even leave this house. Yeah. I thought it was extremely big in scope for you know, it built a huge world. You felt like you were in Holland and during the war and everything, even though you didn't really see much of the war, if at all.
Yeah, there was just the characters and the officers, obviously, but yeah, it definitely did well in that aspect. Eddie Marzan's another one who plays a German a lot, so I feel bad for both him and Christopher Plummer. But he was actually kind of terrifying in just the relaxing state during that dinner scene of telling that story.
Honestly, I can't think of a film where he was really terrifying, and he's usually like a kind of lovable goof in a way. At least all the films that I can think of at the top of my head, until I saw that movie I watched last week, Tyrannosaur, where he is just a complete monster. And he's a monster in this too. He's Himmler. He does less horrifying things, but he says a lot of horrifying things in this than he does in Tyrannosaur.
Yeah.
So I kind of am glad that I was able to watch both those films so close together, because it really kind of took that that idea of Eddie Marzan that I had in my head. Also, I forgot he's the bad guy in Hitchcock too, and he's kind of terrifying in that as well, even though it's more of a comedy. But
yeah, I completely forgot about that. The guy who gets his hand cut off.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie was actually way better than I expected it to be. I do wish Jai Courtney could get more roles, maybe not like this, but definitely more dramatic roles for sure. Lily James was awesome. Christopher Plummer was just humbling. Just even though he was a Kaiser and all that, he always got pinpointed in, like he always said in the movie, like, why is, and I'll even repeat it. He was like this. Why are always bad things pointed to me? However, Christopher Plummer accents.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like you felt that. You're like, okay, I kind of feel for what he's doing. But I was really enjoying this movie.
Yeah, I agree. It was a lot better than I was anticipating, especially from a film that I had not heard of before.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this was out. I follow all of these actors' careers relatively closely, but this one somehow flew under the radar.
So close to like our day, like now, it's 2020, and this came out in 2016. I mean, I was working at the movies. I was working at I didn't even know this was a thing.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah, definitely. But like, regardless of how good this is, I don't really have too much to say about it. I think it's a really solid film. It's got great performances. It builds the world really well, and it's not like, I would say it's better than okay, which is weird because usually it's just the okay movies I don't have much to say. But I think it's because it's such a contained story where it all takes place in this house.
Yeah, it's all in this mansion. Well, mansion. It's all in this mansion, takes place, and you've only got a handful of characters that actually you're really dealing with. So there's not too many things going on besides. I mean, I guess we could talk about the chemistry between Lily James and Jai Courtney. They were both fantastic together.
Their chemistry was electric.
Yeah,
like from the get go, when you think that he's about to rape her, and then she's kind of takes charge in that situation.
Yeah,
it was just like the chemistry between them was just phenomenal, to the point where it was very believable, even though you find out she is Jewish, and he just doesn't care. And a spy. Well, he doesn't learn that till later. But every step, like
this movie had a really good theme of humanizing its characters.
Yeah,
like you have,
except for the ones who don't deserve it, like Himmler.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah,
at least the main characters. So between the Kaiser, between Jai Courtney's character, between Lily James' character. I mean, usually it's always the Jewish characters who were definitely humanized in these movies.
Yeah.
But you had this Nazi captain. You had the Kaiser of Prussia, I think. Like they were all they seemed like good people, just stuck in a really bad time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people forget that too. Like, we live in a world now where the internet is a thing. So if our country does something shitty, we pretty much find out, if not right away, a few months after it happens. People need to remember that you can serve your country back then and not hear about any of the atrocities it's doing because you didn't personally witness it for years. Like, like I said, I went to a church that had a elderly couple who were part of the Hitler Youth, and their parents, when they found out what was happening, were just appalled, and is a major reason why they moved to America, because they were so ashamed of their country that they even abandoned it, even after things were starting to get better. Like, and again, every single person who is part of the Nazi Party has some responsibility in a certain way, but there are people who are just kind of caught in a situation. They're sold the lies. We see people sold the lies now, where even though we have all this research, they believe what they're told, even though it's not it's obviously a lie,
or they're ignorant about it.
Yeah, and of hindsight's 2020. We're what 70 years after. Oh,
Yeah, roughly.
80 years actually, almost 80
Yeah.
years after World War II. So we know how obvious it was at the time, but if you put yourself in their shoes, it becomes less clear.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about the ending too. How did you feel about the ending? If I felt like it left it open a little bit. I don't know much about Berlin and what happened in World War II, to be honest. And there was like
Berlin
an air
got-
raid while he was.
Berlin got bombed the shit. So essentially, it was kind of hinting that Jai Courtney died.
Yeah.
Because Berlin, along with many other German cities, got bombed to shit. Where, especially Nazi buildings such as that, like if it was advertised as a Nazi building, it was going to be a target for a bombing, which is why everyone was leaving.
Yeah.
But him either being in a good place or wanting to die or whatever, he stayed there. And of course, it's up in the air. That might not have happened, but that's how I took it, just because I know that at the end of the war,
Yeah, I assume
if you were in a Nazi
this is
building,
a novel,
you died.
these aren't actual characters. Like, these aren't actual people. It never said it was based on a true story.
Yeah,
anything
it's
like that.
it's not. It's based on a book. I mean, Kaiser Wilhelm II is real. Princess Hermine's real. Himmler
Yeah.
obviously is real, but I think everyone else is fictitious.
Yeah. So like it left it open to be like, they both got out. Lily James got out of there. She turns out she's pregnant with most likely Jai Courtney's baby. They didn't really give like a timeline of how far away. It seemed like a couple months.
Yeah, that's
but
probably
she
my
got out.
only pet peeve is because like when they first show Jai Courtney, it feels like it's years, but then you see that she's
Yeah.
pregnant, and you're like, oh,
And
it's
then-
probably like 6 months.
Well, that blew my mind because I'm like, well, that's the longest pregnancy in my life. but yeah, it turns out she's pregnant and that she was about to meet Winston Churchill, and then
Yeah.
you got Jai Courtney open in the book that Lily James owned. Why do I keep saying Lily James instead of her actual name? It was like Mike or something like that.
Mika, yeah.
Mika.
But also the bombing of Berlin didn't happen until 1944, I believe.
Yeah.
And Kaiser Wilhelm died in 41.
So I don't know how like that timeline exactly works, but I don't know.
think it expects its audience to just, suspend reality
Yeah.
or suspend their disbelief or what have you. But like historically, that timing doesn't make sense unless they met up in the middle of there somehow.
But hearing the air raid in the back, and while he's sitting there reading this book with a big ass smile on his face, maybe really fucking sad for a minute. I was just like,
Yeah.
well, that's come on, come on.
I mean, he does have to, like, in the morality of storytelling, he does have to pay for his sins.
Yeah,
Which were not as great as other Nazis, but
yeah. Well, I was glad I was left with that sadness, but at the same time, I was like, well, what the fuck, dude?
yeah, I really like the ending. The
'Cause I
only
think
thing
even
is
in
the
the
timing.
book, it said like her address, like where she's at, or some shit like that. I don't know. I was
Yeah.
just like, oh.
Yeah,
you know?
but if you know basic history about World War II, or look it up, like I didn't know when Kaiser Wilhelm died. I thought he died before World War II, but like if you look it up, it kind of makes that ending a little weird. But I still appreciated it.
Yeah, it was still good nonetheless.
Yeah.
That's really it for me as far as that
Yeah,
goes.
same here. So let's get into the judgment. As always, this has to be unanimous decision whether or not to make it a KFR shelf boy. Glenn, would you like to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed this movie way more than I thought I would. I love the chemistry between a lot of the actors, whether it was Lily James and Jai Courtney or Lily James and Christopher Plummer, and then all the other things going on in it. I liked how small the setting was and everything like that. And really, I think this movie would be a really good companion piece with like any other World War II movie. Like it definitely fits like that shelf of like, hey, do you want to watch Schindler's List and then bada bing bada boom? But if you watch Schindler's List, you're going to be watching 5 hours worth of movies, it seems. I think this definitely fits. Like if you're a huge World War II fan, like then watching the movies of those. Well, nobody's really a fan of it, but of the movies and it takes place. I think it sits in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely deserves it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a especially for a lesser known World War II story. Obviously, it takes fictitious royalties, I don't know what you want to call it, with like the whole spy thing not really happening.
Yeah.
I would believe the whole plot of Hitler inviting Hitler inviting Wilhelm to come back to kind of flood out the monarchy supporters.
Yeah.
That's very believable. I don't know if that happened, but it's a very incredible story. I had no idea Kaiser Wilhelm was still alive at that point, so it was kind of cool to learn a little bit about that. So yeah, I would agree. I believe this is a shelf boy. It seems like the exception becomes a shelf boy with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden. And that brings us to our plugs for this week. Glenjamin Button, what is your plug?
For me, we're going to scroll on over to YouTube. Mine is actually going to be Midsummer Trailer, but it's a feel-good romantic comedy. Which, if you watched it, it ain't that, Jack.
It ain't that.
But yeah, I watched it. Now I kind of want to watch Midsummer again, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because everything about this little fake trailer is just not that movie. But now I really want to watch that movie. So that's it's gonna be Midsummer Trailer, but it's a feel good romantic comedy on YouTube by Nailed It Network.
Oh my God! Thank you, man.
How long have you two been together?
Just over 3.5 years.
4 years.
No. Really?
Yeah, 4 years and 2 weeks.
Danny, do you feel held by him? Does he feel like home to you? I know what you're going through, Danny.
Yeah, I watched that too. I almost picked it, but then I was like, I feel like it could have been edited a little bit better. So
Yeah.
it's still good, but
It
that's why I
definitely has
didn't
the
pick it.
spacious moments in between it.
Yeah. So my plug for this week, everyone might remember, last year I plugged a little show called The Movies That Made Us. They released 2 special episodes and called it The Holiday Movies That Made Us. There are 2 episodes where they talk about Elf and The Nightmare Before Christmas. So it's a real quick watch, watch it in under 2 hours. And it talks about the making of those films, and it's really fascinating. Particularly both of them. I was going to try to pick one, but they're both really fascinating. Seeing a young Tim Burton's really funny. Apparently he has a temper, but he doesn't look like he has a temper. He just looks like the chillest, most stoned dude in the world. But
Could see that with his hair and everything.
Yeah, but he, especially back then. But it's a really fascinating little documentary series. So that is The Holiday Movies That Made Us on Netflix.
I really love Christmas movies. Elf was a great concept and it was hilarious. Will Ferrell as Buddy.
This script was custom made for him.
Will read it and said,
yeah.
And that begins the journey.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Tim Burton was a Disney animation trainee.
They did not know what to do with him. He was considered such an
oddball.
Tim was thrilled with the idea of bringing Nightmare Before Christmas to life.
He's the most successful director in Hollywood.
They said, here's 18 million, go make a movie.
I'm calling these studios. I'm telling them I have this amazing script. And they said, you are insane to think Will Ferrell should be the lead of anything.
There was literally no script.
He kicked a hole in the wall.
We got in trouble with clearance. The film might not be releasable. We had lawyers saying, where's your reference? Where did you get this idea?
It's heartbreaking.
So those are our plugs for this week. That brings us to what our assignment is next week. I discussed earlier how it is a movie that I've already watched. I am going to rewatch it because I want to rewatch it. But it is called Light of My Life, and that is on Amazon Prime.
Can I help you, sir?
And who are we here?
This is my son.
Company boy.
Not looking for any more company, sir.
Yeah, I bet.
There's bedrooms with beds.
I know.
Can we stay?
I don't think it's a safe place to be.
Who is it? They're looking for me because I'm a girl.
What do you want?
We come in, we're very cold. I've got a little child here.
Seems to me you've been at this a long time. I wonder what the toll is.
Kids are with
You just gotta keep her close.
It is written and directed by Casey Affleck and starring Anna Piniowski and Casey Affleck, Tom Bauer, Elizabeth Moss, and a few other smaller characters in there. It is about parent and child journey through the outskirts of society a decade after a pandemic has wiped out half the world's population. As a father struggles to protect his child, their bond and the character of humanity is tested. It's a really, I'm not, without going into much.
Yeah.
I'm still deciding whether or not this would be a Shelf Boy, but it is it's
another extra week to think about it, buddy. Don't you worry.
Exactly. It's very reminiscent of The Road. So if you like The Road, you'll probably at least enjoy it. Again, whether or not it's a Shelf Boy, still up in the air for me, but I'm looking forward to watching Light of My Life on Amazon Prime.
All right.
Yeah, so that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Apologize for the long rant in the middle of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
But as always, you can check out our website, KeystoneFilmReview.com. On Instagram, we are Keystone_Film_Review. Twitter, Keystone_Film. Facebook, Keystone Film Review. YouTube, Keystone Film Review. And on Letterboxd, I am Mike, KFR.
And I am Glenn, KFR.
And that will do it until next week when we wander the wilderness with our son, which is my son's Glenn, and I'm Glenn's son.
Mm-hmm. It's Japanese, it feels like.
I don't get that reference, but
son Glenn.
Oh, I get that now. I'm dumb. Bye-bye.